What we're doing here, this is Connor we have Connor from Inside Up Games. He's been gracious enough to meet with us, which is awesome, but I'm here to help you guys and then also to help Stack Up, tell you guys about Stack Up, so you guys know about Stack Up, and Stack Up knows about you guys and what you're doing. So briefly, Stack Up is just a veterans nonprofit organization. We help veterans in active duty through gaming, not just video games, not just tabletop games, but kind of the whole nerd culture as a whole. So that's my brief introduction on what we're doing here. So to start off with Connor and Inside Up, a couple initial questions. So if you could tell us just about the company, maybe a brief expose on how you guys got started, what you guys are about, and yeah.
Sure. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah.
So basically Inside Up Games started in 2016, I guess, when we did Summit. Back there, my first board game. That is a survival game you can play competitively, cooperatively, or solo on a two-sided board. So I kickstarted that year, and it went well. It funded. I followed that up with its first expansion, the Yeti expansion, which you can see right there. There we go. I guess which camera I'm using, the white box, the Vanna White. And then after that, I did Vault Assault in the bottom corner over there. And then last year, Gorus Maximus was our big hit, which is behind me here, a trick-taking card game for 1 to 8 players. And then this year, we started off with a Teams expansion to Summit, which allows you to play Summit as a team, still both either cooperative or competitive. And then the most recent Kickstarter, you can see in the back here behind Chad, is the Seven Souls. And that is our Cthulhu-themed game where players are playing as the ancient evil ones trying to take over the world, which is lots of fun. And then we have another not surprise, but another Kickstarter planned for September, which will be an undead Western, which will be lots of fun.
If I can ask you real quick, so Summit has received a lot of praise. Simple search on it, I mean, it's won top 10 in 2017 from Dice Tower. You've got Best in Show from Meeple Games at Gen Con 50. We'll touch on a little bit more about what Summit is about, but my question for you is, what is your favorite game from your list here?
That's an unfair question. That's like asking a movie lover their favorite movie, which I could also not do. Yeah, that's a hard question. I'm very much of the opinion that I pick games based on who I'm playing with that night.
Okay, yeah.
So for example, if I have some hardcore buddies coming over, I'd play the competitive Summit. If kids want to play, I'd play cooperative Summit, or maybe Vault Assault, a little bit more family friendly. If I'm playing with my parents, or if I want like a small, easy to pack game, I'd bring Gorus Maximus. So it's really kind of term dependent.
Okay.
I mean, Summit will always have that sweet spot in my heart because it was my first. But it's hard because I get equally excited about each subsequent game, mostly because I try to design around fun. I mean, there's a lot of games, a lot of brain burners, a lot of crazy party games. I just try to design my games with a lot of player interaction and a lot of fun, so that when you're around the table with your friends, you're looking at them in the eye, you're laughing, you're hooting, you're swearing, whatever it's going to be, but you're enjoying each other.
Yeah, of course. Let's actually go into a little more about just kind of a brief description of what is Summit about, like the game itself, the goal, and just kind of the gameplay. If you can just briefly touch on what the game is about for those that may not know what it is.
So yeah, as I mentioned quickly before, Summit's a survival game you can play competitively or cooperatively. So it's a two-sided board, so the first thing you want to do is figure out what you want to do. So we're going to figure out, are we going to work together to try to ascend and descend a daily mountain, or do we want to race up and down the mountain and try to kill each other?
Okay.
Right, that's first off. So let's say you want to do the cooperative mode. Well, now you need to work together, and you will be actually laying different types of tiles to build the route up the mountain. You will be dealing with different types of weather and events throughout the game, mostly malicious, and then you'll be in charge of your own resource management on your player boards. So each player board has their own stats and abilities, and that involves carrying your own food and oxygen. So a lot of the military guys are going to know the more you carry, the heavier you get, and the heavier you are, the slower you move. Well, maybe not you guys, but the rest of us.
It'll still wear on you though. Yeah.
Exactly. So you got to figure out that race strategy, and you got to make your way up that mountain, survive for as long as possible.
Okay.
The co-op game is so grueling that unlike most cooperatives, it's not game over if someone dies. That's not thematic or realistic to me.
Okay.
What you may even choose to do is sacrifice yourself and say, we're not both going to make it, so you take my food and oxygen and you go on without me.
Okay.
Because we just need to make sure that at least one person both summits and returns to base camp alive for the team to win as a whole.
Okay.
There is a scoring mechanic, so the more people that survive, the better, but at least you know that you can ramp up that difficulty to extra hard and still maybe squeak out a win.
So would it be kind of like the cooperative mode is PvE, and then the competitive would be more like PvP. So in the cooperative mode, it sounds like you're fighting against the environment more than you are each other.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah, and then for the competitive mode, if you want a little bit more cutthroat, you flip the board over and some tracks on the side and the goal changes. Okay. Now you're actually racing up and down the mountain, making points for pole position as you arrive at the different waypoints. Okay. The game is made vastly more interesting by the addition of the karma track on the right-hand side. So instead of just being a race game, it actually takes into account how you're racing in that game. Okay. So you're playing karma cards to actively help and hurt each other. So maybe I want to give you some food or oxygen. I gain karma points, which is an in-game resource and end-game scoring. Okay. Maybe you have lots of points, so you cut my rope and throw me back down the hill. It's all allowed, but it's end game scoring that matters. Okay. So you need to balance your race and how nice or mean you are to kind of get the win.
Okay. I may have missed this co-op. What's the win condition on that again?
So in cooperative, you need at least one player to both reach the summit and descend alive.
Alive, okay.
The mistake a lot of newbies will make is they'll be working together, someone gets to the top, they all start heading down, and then that person dies, someone else has got to go back up.
Okay. So that definitely sounds interesting, to say the least, but also the Yeti expansion, some people were calling it essential. So it sounds like it definitely adds a good element to the game. If you can briefly just tell us what the Yeti expansion, and then also teams, that's new to me. I'm not sure what teams actually is about yet. So if you can just tell us about those two expansions real quick, that'd be awesome. Yeah.
Sure, yeah. So the Yeti expansion was the first expansion to the game, and it just kind of adds to the overall theme and excitement of the game. Yeah. So it adds a Yeti, which I don't even have here, but it adds a Yeti meeple to the game, and he now hunts you and your friends on the mountain. In the competitive version, you actually choose where he's going. You send him after your friends. In the cooperative mode, he goes after the alpha, whoever's the healthiest person on the mountain, until they pause them around, he eats them for a little bit, maybe steals some of their food. Okay, so it adds new item cards, event cards, and karma cards, as well as new player mats, and then the Yeti himself.
Okay.
That can be used, again, both competitively or cooperatively or solo. Okay. The team's expansion that you touched on was done this year as our latest, or not our latest, but our Kickstarter in March. Okay. The team's expansion, again, adds new item cards, event cards, karma cards, new player boards, and a new mode of play, which is the team mode, meaning that you and I could work together competitively against another team. So we're actually working together to squeak out a win in a competitive mode, or we're working together to beat another team in cooperative mode. Nice. So it actually works on both sides. Okay. In addition to that, there are square climbing ladder tiles, which actually allow you to lay tiles over top of the triangular tiles on the board to help get you in and out of situations. Because anyone who's played the game knows that the mountain can be very cruel.
Of course, of course. So Gore's Maximus is the next one I had on my list. It sounds bloody, it sounds intense, it just sounds awesome. And of course, veterans, military members, we love the intense stuff, So tell me about Gore's Maximus and what it's about and what it has to bring to the table.
Yeah, so for sure. So Gore's Maximus is a trick-taking card game. So similar to a euchre, hearts, bridge, anything like that. The idea of playing a card, highest card wins. Okay. Very straightforward.
Mortarman, this is just something we know from interview. We always joke about how they play spades. They love their card games. So that might fit right in. So, all right. Well, and it's called Gore's Maximus.
What they need to do, so these are promo cards, so you can't see the whole thing, but what they need to do then is they need to get the premium version, which are actually PVC plastic cards.
Ooh, okay.
And it comes in a to-go tuck box, so they can actually fit a 5-player game in their pocket.
Wow, okay.
These PVC cards can get wet, they can get sandy, you can wash them off and keep playing. And they've got that nice gold edging on the side of them as well. So basically in the game, we're all fighting in a coliseum. We're trying to use the best gladiators we have to try to take out the wins and earn points. If I had one in front of me, I could show you. The part that makes the game unique and interesting is the addition of values to those cards. Okay. So in euchre, everyone's trying to win the most tricks. Right. In a spades or hearts, you're trying to win tricks and avoid bad tricks. Right. In this one, there's actual values. So some cards are worth 2, some are worth 1, some are worth nothing, and some are worth negatives, including the 8s, which are worth -4. Okay. So the game's just as much about winning the good tricks as screwing over your friends who are winning the other tricks.
Nice, okay.
At the end of the game, you'll be adding up all those points to see who wins. Now, one of the interesting facts in the game is you can actually switch trump mid-trick. That's done by a challenge. So in most games, if you can imagine, we play a 4, a 6, and a 9, the 9's going to win. Yeah. Now in this case, if you played a 9 and I had a 6 in my hand and I didn't want to lose it to you, I could also play another 9, matching the rank of the last card played. That changes trump immediately to my suit, and I'm now winning the trick. Okay. It confuses some people because it's not like Uno. It's not changing what's being asked for, it's only changing trump. So the next player would still have to follow your suit, or they could play a 9.
Okay.
So what this doing is it's allow you to actively manipulate trump. So some card games, you get dealt a hand of cards and you can't do anything with it. It's just crappy cards.
Okay.
Poopy cards. I'm not sure what the rating level is.
You're fine. You're fine.
So you just get a shit hand, right?
Yeah.
So with Gorus Maximus, you can always get back in the game and always squeak out a win here or there, steal some points, screw someone over.
Okay.
Also, the 0 cards are worthless except for the 0 of trump at the end of the round. So what ends up happening is if you collect the blue trump during the game, you're going to want to try to manipulate trump to be blue by the end of the game and score 5 extra points.
Okay. That just sounds like a bloody, intense, glorified, kind of game of hearts or spades or something like that. And that sounds right up our alley. I mean, that leads me to one of the questions I was going to ask you was, one of the things that Stack Up does, we have a lot of different things that we do to help support veterans. We'll game with people, we'll chat with people who need to chat with us, but we also do your traditional supply crates. We'll send not only games, sometimes we'll send video game consoles, we'll send Game Informer magazines and stuff like that. A lot of times, especially in my experience, when you're deployed, you're at mud walls, in GP tents and stuff like that, and to have a game with a lot of tokens and a lot of things you got to keep track of, a lot of times you're playing outside, and the more you have to keep track of, the more you could lose. I was going to ask you, if we were to send one of your games to people overseas, what would be the best one? It sounds like this one probably took the cake, simply because, first of all, it doesn't seem like there's as much to keep track of. But it also seems right up our alley with the play style.
Yeah, so there's 2 games that I would say. So Vault Assault is our fast-paced cops and robbers dice game. It's great because it's super easy to clean up, throw it in the box, some dice and some tokens for keeping track of scores.
Okay.
Very straightforward. But it's only 2 to 4 players. I think for what I've heard from you already, Gorus Maximus is really the way to go. It's 1 to 8 players,
okay.
So you can get a big group going. You can play free-for-all or team games if you want to team up on each other.
Yeah.
So you can even do a 2v2v2v2. You can do a 4v4, whatever you want to do.
Nice.
Big games, lots of fun. And like I say, with the PVC cards and that ability to kind of bring it with you wherever you go, I think it would match up really well.
7 Souls. 7 Souls, I want to know about it. It seems creepy. It's Lovecraftian, and gamers like that is super popular with us. I mean, we kind of like that Cthulhu creepy kind of, and it also seems like it's got a decent twist to it where it's like you're assembling a cult following, basically, if I'm not mistaken. So if you can kind of touch on 7 Souls, that's on Kickstarter right now.
Just finished.
Just finished.
But
okay.
We still have late pledges open, and that will unlock more stretch goals.
Okay, that was going to be one of my questions, is how is it doing? But it
it funded in 24 hours. So
wow.
Done well. We've unlocked some of the stretch goals already, and I kept late pledges open for Origin, so whatever order is coming now will hopefully help us reach more late pledges.
Awesome. So yeah, if you can tell us briefly what it's about.
Sure. Yeah, so 7 Souls, as you can see from the poster behind, is, as you mentioned, a Lovecraftian themed game. The twist we have is instead of playing as investigators, you're actually playing as the Ancient Ones, the old evil gods themselves.
Yes.
At the start of the game, you're dealt 2 of the different gods. You're going to pick which one you want to be and what your secret objective is going to be. That's put to the side, and then we're all using the same, well, we have our own hand, but the same 7 characters in those hands. So we're trying to use the same people and manipulate them to our will to get us extra power, maybe some extra souls, or some more mental resolve that we're going to use to fight against each other or fight amongst the actual investigators who are trying to hunt us.
Excellent. Yeah.
So it is a real-time, not real-time, it is a simultaneous action selection where players will be selecting 3 of the characters in their hand, placing 1 at each of the 3 buildings. Once all players have their cards there, you'll flip them over and you'll resolve them in initiative order, taking the supplies you need. So as I mentioned, gaining some power, which can be used to power up your attacks or purchase some in-game bonus points. You can gain souls, which are straight up victory points, or you can gain resolve. And those resolves are actual cards you use for resolve checks.
Okay.
So when we're ever competing to control the same character at the same place, we'll flip over a resolve card to see who's stronger and who has better mental control over this character.
Right. Yeah, that sounds awesome. Again, that's just finished up on Kickstarter, but you can still make late pledges. When can we expect it to be completely released to buy? Yeah.
So by the Kickstarter details, my plan is to have it ready for early next year.
Okay.
That said, I'm pushing really hard to have it ideally out to my backers by the end of this year.
Awesome. So thank you for explaining, all of your games and talking about all of that stuff, sharing the info with us. I have one last question I'd like to ask you. Again, what Stack Up is about, gaming has Yeah, saved a lot of us. We have some staff at Stack Up that have amazing stories about, they were recovering in Walter Reed because, they lost parts of their body, or they're really struggling in their mind, and stuff like depression, PTSD. That's a common thing among veterans. We're finding that gaming is not just silly little games for kids anymore, whether it's video games or tabletop games and stuff. Gaming can kind of help you take your mind off of keep them off of those dark things that we struggle with, and that can really weigh us down. Gaming really has meant a lot to us, and Stack Up is trying to fill that role. My question for you've developed games, you said you've been around since 2016. If you can just briefly just tell us what gaming has meant to you, and that you're leading up to, starting your company here and making games. What has gaming meant to you?
Well, I'll try to give you the fast version of a long story.
Yeah.
But basically, we didn't have a TV growing up. My mom hated TV, so we didn't have one. So I have 3 siblings, and we played a lot of games. We played a lot of board games, a lot of card games, and I just always loved that interaction. Again, once I became a teenager, I got my own TVs, my own video game systems, which I loved. But then as I grew up and I got busier and ran my own companies and then had kids, I had less and less free time. And the free time I did have, I wanted to spend around a table playing games with friends. And say interacting with real people, not a screen.
Yeah.
So that's what got me more into board games and a little bit away from the video games. So I've been doing that. So that's helped a lot. On a personal level, I changed my career from running a construction company to now running a board game company. And again, that's for personal reasons, not for financial reasons.
Yeah, of course.
Because I genuinely love what I do. I love that I'm able to bring some fun and excitement and enjoyment to people's lives. I love sharing that with them. So for me, getting to game is, as you said, it's kind of a bit of an escapism of you can actually kind of delve into that, which is why theme is really important to me, getting really invested in that game, feeling it, enjoying it, trying your best to win, to pull out the win, but losing, still realizing, okay, I can do this better next time, I can do that, I can still enjoying it. So for me, that's what it is, and now that my kids have grown up, they're almost 6, 8, and almost 10 now, and seeing their growth.
Yeah.
My wife's French, I'm Canadian, so we talk to our kids in French, and see my eldest daughter want to learn English better so that she could read my English games, or not my games, but games we have, and play them together. So seeing that want to improve, the development of strategy, when you see people go from simple mechanics to overall plans and future moves. So for me, it's really that enjoyment of spending time with people around the table. And I did just want to say thank you to all your viewers, all your watchers, for what you have done. Although I'm Canadian and you're American, what you do for your country and what our veterans and active duty do for our country is an amazing sacrifice of time, of will, of body, and it's amazing what you guys all do for us.
Yeah, we appreciate it. And again, Stack Up is not just an American organization. I mean, we were out of Pennsylvania, now we're out of LA. Of course, that's where everything tends to move out west, and we've been around since 2015, but we are branching out to NATO allies. We have representatives in, the UK, we have representatives in Australia, and what I'm doing here, there's a section of Stack Up, we call it the Stacks, and it's a local, mostly volunteer-led chapter of Stack Up. Gaming can be a great escape, but that can also, it's a double-edged sword. You come back or get out of the military, you're trying to reintegrate into society. It's easy to sit behind a screen and play a game and shut everybody else out. And what the Stacks does is we're trying to bring those veterans that enjoy gaming together and give them a community of like-minded people, civilian supporters and veterans alike, that enjoy gaming, to bring them together on a semi-regular basis. That sense of camaraderie and hanging out with people, board games really are great for that. We do a lot of video game stuff. We go to gaming conventions, all that kind of stuff. We have a big online presence with Discord and all that. But for the Stacks, and what I enjoy doing is, bring people together and playing board games, because it's tangible and you're there and you're with people. So anyways, thank you again, Conor, for sitting down with me for a few minutes. I really appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to what you guys come out with next. So.
Thank you so much for having me.